Shalom from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Alka Ben-Dor, and I'm one of the Masa Works coordinators. I believe I've actually met some of you through the Skype interviews and also just through our phone calls. Today we worked on preparing for you a short video about a mock interview. The reason that we did this was because we really know that if you practice interviewing, you're really going to have an opportunity to take all those answers that you have in your head and be able to articulate them a lot better after you've practiced. So today you're going to watch a video. It was put together by Marla Davis, a Masa alum, and by Mindy Agan, who's on the JFS Career Strategy staff. And we hope that you'll enjoy this video and take advantage of it and practice with your friends. And hopefully when you get to that interview stage, you'll be a lot more relaxed and hopefully you'll land that dream job that you want. So toda rabah and shalom, and we look forward to your feedback. Thanks.
Okay, so Marla, I'm so glad that you came in today for the interview. I appreciate your being here with us. I have a couple questions that I'd like to ask you, and we'll kind of go on from there. So first of all, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Mindy, thank you very much for meeting with me today. I'm a graduate from The Ohio State University, and after I graduated, I was looking for a global experience, and that's when I thought about Israel experiences and spent 5 months overseas on a Tikkun Olam Tel Aviv Jaffa experience, where I taught English as a second language to Ethiopian and Darfur refugees.
Can you give me, well, let me ask you this other question. How'd you find us? What do you know about the Federation's mission, and what part of that mission resonates with you?
So while I was in Israel, I really developed my love for the Jewish community, and I was exploring my Jewish identity and met so many people, and I was working with so many people that had different Jewish traditions and backgrounds that I really came back with this goal to be a Jewish communal worker. So I went to jewishjobs.com and I found an opening for the Israel Experience and a Teed Columbus director, and I decided that this would be a great way to start my Jewish career.
What were you thinking of doing before you wanted to work in the Jewish community?
So my major was in Hebrew at OSU, and my minor was in art. I did do some prerequisites for occupational therapy school, but while I was in Israel, my passion for the Jewish community continued to grow, and I realized that I wanted to give back to the experiences that I had to develop those for other people.
Can you give me 3 strengths that best describe you? And then give me an example of how you have demonstrated each one of these strengths, either in a professional work capacity or a significant volunteer experience.
Great. So communication, I would say, is the first one. While I was overseas, my job was in front of a classroom, and it was working with people who didn't speak English. So not only did I have to think about what I was saying, but I had to think about my body language and my listening skills in order to have a successful lesson. And then in addition to that, I really think that while I was overseas, my leadership skills grew. Before that, I wasn't the most excited about public speaking, and in a classroom setting, you really have to have control over the classroom, be comfortable speaking in public settings, and also working with people one-on-one to make them into leaders. So I think that was the skill set, not just leadership, but helping other people develop that too. And in addition to that, I would say patience is something that I learned while I was working on volunteering overseas. It became apparent pretty quickly that there's going to be frustrations, especially when there's language barriers between individuals. And I think that developing a sense of being patient has improved it didn't only improve my experience in the classroom, but also my interpersonal experiences when I came home from the trip. And it really, I think, is a skill set that is valuable in all settings.
You did mention that one of the things you learned was patience and that there was frustration. Can you give me a specific example with a challenge in action result of a particularly frustrating experience you had. What was it? What'd you do about it? And what was the resolution?
Great. So one of the frustrating experiences I had overseas was actually not in the classroom, but about a person who did not consistently come to class. And so it became an issue where we would progress in this individual's studies, and then it would degrade because he wasn't there on a regular basis. So as a result, I realized we needed to come up with a strategy to make sure that he developed habits of coming to class regularly. So it began with one-on-one meeting to address the issue and to discuss what are the benefits of coming to class, how can it advance his life here in Israel. And then after that, it became a method of following up. So it became before every class a reminder, after every class a follow-up. And so we developed basically a plan so that he could have a successful time in the classroom.
And was it successful?
Yeah, it was. It took time. I mean, it wasn't something that, and I think this is where patience comes into it. It was something that, it was a habit that he had to develop, and that if he needed assistance to develop it, I felt that it was my responsibility as a volunteer to help him come up with a plan to do it. So even when there were times where, even with the reminder, he didn't show up, it was a process of both of us not giving up on each other. So I think that's where both planning and patience, where I guess were two of the skill sets that took place in order to have that person have a successful time in the classroom.
And so by the end of your time there, he was coming regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me, what would your colleagues or coworkers say about you? How would they describe you?
So I think that some things that might describe me is an outgoing person, a friendly person. I'm dependable. I think that, throughout my time at The Ohio State University, making friendships is a part of what made my college experience meaningful. Along with my academics, I think the relationships we build with one another really create a vibrant community for me to live in, and hopefully I help to also be a part of that for other people. So I think that those are some of the things that friends would describe me as.
Okay. You have many strengths. It's pretty, it's apparent from your resume and from just the beginning of our conversation here that you have lots of strengths. Can you tell me about a weakness?
So one of the weaknesses I think that I might have is, although I think I'm a very good organizer, sometimes my organizational skills are things that I'm working on improving. And ways I'm working on improving that are taking things slower sometimes, giving myself a moment to look at my week in advance, and to make sure I have everything ready for it. So that is, my organizational skills is something that I'm still working on developing. But I do have a plan in place to make sure that I can continue to improve.
Here at the Federation, we work with all kinds of people, professionals, volunteers. They hold all kinds of positions in the community, other people at other agencies, and some people are really terrific, and some personalities can just be what I call very special, but they're difficult. Okay, sometimes we have to work with people with difficult personalities. Can you tell me about a time that you successfully worked with someone who had a difficult personality? What was the challenge, what were the actions, and what were the results?
Great. So this experience actually happened during my time at The Ohio State University. I was very active at OSU Hillel, and I was co-directing one of the groups on campuses. The other co-director that worked with me and I had very different skill sets and preferences to how we got work done. She was very detail-oriented, and I was very ideas-oriented, and at first, it was a little bit difficult to figure out how we were going to succeed together. But after a little bit of time and communication, we realized that really there was the difficulties weren't there. The great part was that what we were able to do for each other is that she was able to teach me a lot more about being detail-oriented, and I was able to help her see the big picture. So as a result, the problem that occurred was in a specific event where we had issues about the newsletter. When should we get it out? What should it say? And I thought it was more important to get it out soon, even if we didn't have all the particulars in place yet. So and ended up happening was that we set up a date, that by this date, no matter what we ended up having, that was going to be the date we sent it out. So it ended up making both of us happy, and that she was able to get the details she needed together for the newsletter, and I was able to say by this time our constituents would be able to know what the upcoming things were. So that was our challenge, and also how we ended up coming to an agreement to make sure that people would be able to know the right information and on time.
And did your relationship improve from that forward, or what did you guys change in that? How'd you make that work?
So I think it's interesting. Any difficulties we faced at the beginning, and I think most people face some difficulties when they're working with someone who has different work skills, maybe isn't the right word, but who has different motivations. And after a while, it was clear that we were both there for the same reasons. We really wanted to improve this group, and we really wanted to engage more people to be involved. So instead of even thinking that our different skill sets were a difficulty, it became an amazing opportunity to learn from somebody who has different skill sets from me, and I think she also looked at it the same way.
At the Federation, no matter really what position you're in, you are the face of the community. So, Marla, why do you believe that you have the skills and talents to be that face?
So when I think about joining a community or being a part of a community, what interests me is having somebody who's friendly, outgoing, a good listener, and is willing to work with me to get me involved. So, and because people have done that for me in the past, I can think about my first time at OSU Hillel and who influenced me to have me come back to more events, or how I ended up in Israel to begin with. It was because of people and interactions I had with them. And I really think that I have the skill sets that I can do that for others, to be a good introduction to an organization and to carry through in the mission in order to make sure that they feel welcomed and included and that they're being heard.
Why you? Why should we hire you? We've had a lot of applications from this, for this particular position, lots of interest for it. Why should we choose you?
So I think my experience at The Ohio State University and my Israel experience overseas, along with I staffed a birthright trip, these experiences all together really have cultivated my love for the Jewish community. And through it, I've explored my passions for Judaism and my own Jewish identity, and I want to provide other people with that opportunity. And I think the Jewish Federation is a wonderful place that I would be able to be a face for the organization and also connect with more people. And that's something that I not only want to do, but I have a passion for, that maybe other people, based on their previous experiences, weren't able to develop. But that's something that through my Israel experiences and time overseas, I'm really passionate about it.
Talk to me a little bit about your comfort level using social media, website. Tell me what you're proficient in, what's your strength,
So one of the nice things is at OSU, and also when we were in Israel, a lot of what we did was social media based. So we would invite people to things via social media. We had newsletters to keep people updated. So all of those things are devices that I've used before and that I've used before successfully. I'm thinking of when we have Ohio Loves Israel on campus, we invite hundreds and hundreds of students to come, and we have a lot turn out based on not just one mode of social media, but using multiple methods. Like we use newsletters, Twitter, Facebook, one-on-one outreach, flyering, and I think that, as much as the internet is great, it's really the variety of methods coming together that proves to be successful. And I'm interested in learning more, but also I feel very proficient in the ones that I'm accustomed to.